afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to have you here again at TSTD's Learn From Home series. So as you can see, we have some new faces with you here. We have Kina Rojas. Tama ba?
Yes.
Hey, amazing.
Hi, everyone.
We have Kina Rojas. So she's going to moderate for us today. Kina is one of the Board of Trustees of the Philippine Society for Talent Development, and she's also one of the directors of Land Bank of the Philippines. Welcome, Kina, as the moderator for today.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. We also have our speaker here with us. So we have Vanessa Trower. She's just fixing up some things behind, but she's already here with us. So thank you so much for calling in. Good afternoon, Teacher Janine. Excited to see you. First timer here from Davao. Amazing. So I hope this is not the first and the last, Teacher Janine. Welcome. Izel, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the learning opportunity. All right, amazing. Jeanette Abilar, calling from the Department of Agrarian Reform. See, we're expanding now. It's not just anymore training. Sol, calling in from Quezon City. And Abigail, watching from Lirio Laguna. Kina, we now have around 130 callers inside. Vanessa, are you still here? Can you hear us clearly? Kina, do we have her here? Oh, no,
Vanessa is here already.
Hi, all right, amazing. Vanessa, how's everything? Are the lines clear? Are you chopping or are we good?
I'm getting a very distorted audio. Hello to everyone who's on the line already, but I am getting a very distorted audio from you, John. How is my audio?
You're coming in very loud and clear, very clear, Vanessa.
Okay, that's great news.
so that's just me then, Kina.
Yes, we believe.
Only my line is getting ready. All right, cool. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take myself out of, and I'm gonna follow this tip because this was the tip that was given to me by Elena. She said turn my camera off.
I can't hear you at all, John. Sorry.
How about now? Is that better? Is that better? No?
Your voice is still choppy.
All right.
But
still choppy, Kina?
Yes. Your voice is still choppy.
Maybe it's my internet. So this is what I'm gonna do, Kina. Since it's already 1:54, you can now proceed with your slides. All right, because you will be the one who will introduce everyone anyway. So please go ahead. We now have 161 people in the call. Is that clear now, or am I still chopping?
You're coming in.
All right,
your connection still static.
Just take over, Kina. Use your slides now, and then move ahead with the presentation, and then just endorse Vanessa afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much to our president, John. Let me share with you our slides for this afternoon. Okay. Are we? Can you see my slides now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are very happy to have you this afternoon, and we already have, how many participants do we have already? We have 184, 100 and more additional participants are coming in to witness this afternoon's webinar. And I just would like to share with you, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, that the series of free webinars that the Philippine Society for Talent Development is giving you at this moment is a product of our Oplan Hope. Oplan Hope, which means Hang On People Enablers, was established in April. And Open Hope is formed by volunteers from the PSTD members, as well as volunteers from institutions like uh, the one where Vanessa belongs, the AITD. And yes, with the,
Kina,
yes,
Kina,
can you
can you
hear
hear
me?
me?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
fine. I can hear
Sorry.
you loud and clear.
I don't know. I think that's a technical issue, but can you do a present mode so that you will be able to see this? We will all be able to see the slide and screen. Like there's a
Okay,
present button just above beside share. Can you see that?
besides share,
Yes.
unfortunately, there's no.
So you will see on the upper right part of your presentation, there's share, and then there's present. Can you see that?
Okay. So right now you can see the slides that I'm sharing.
We can see it, but it's currently not on present mode. It's on normal mode.
Okay.
What I can do
Seems that,
if you want, like if we're having some, I can take over the screen since
oh
it
yes,
seems like
please.
I'm getting across clearly now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I can take over the screen and then I can just navigate the slides for you from here. Is that okay?
Okay. I'll
All
stop
right.
sharing now.
Yes, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay. Reclaim as host. Amazing. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Right. No
John.
worries. Okay. You're doing great, Kina. I'll. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see
All
your
right.
screen.
Amazing. Okay. So I'll just navigate for you. Don't worry. We're here. We know that this is your first try, but you're doing great. Don't worry. All
Okay,
right.
thank you,
Go ahead.
John. As you all know, the Open Hope was established not just to help our members, but also the entire learning and development community, and of course, our fellow talent development practitioners. And yes, we have two main objectives for Open Hope. First is to support the Philippine learning community as they cope with this crisis. We are doing this in cooperation with our volunteers through the free webinars, the ET-Panans, and of course, other programs like our TikTok. And secondly, uh, Open Hope would like to help sustain PSTD so that we'll be able to operate well and continue on offering these free webinars to really help our fellow talent development professionals. And we are very happy to say that as of today, we've had 15 classes that were conducted through the Learn from Home series, which is being headed by our President John. And the Learn from Home series is being managed by volunteer speakers throughout, not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world. We are very fortunate to have volunteer leaders and volunteer talent development speakers who share with us their knowledge on how we are going to cope with with this situation that we are facing right now. And so far, we've had a whopping 6,297 live Zoom attendees from all over the country. That's great. Yay. And of course, for those who are not able to join us in our Zoom webinar, since we have a capacity of 500 participants per webinar, we are also sharing our webinars through Facebook Live. And so far, we've had 38,000 plus video views in Facebook. And right now, are we sharing our this afternoon's webinar through Facebook Live? Are we? Yes, we
Yes,
are
yes, we
live
are.
already on Facebook.
So they can
And
just go to facebook.com/mypstd.
yes, for those of you who have friends or colleagues who are not able to join us right now, you can share with them the good news that they can still view this webinar through Facebook Live. Okay. And yes, our panelists, they come from all over the world, not just from the Philippines, but just like Vanessa, who is coming all the way from Australia. We have speakers from the different training providers, as well as practitioners from international companies, from global companies like GE, Wyatt, Google, Globe Telecom, and we also have our talent development legendaries from the Civil Service Institute and also from PSTD, from Gallup. Gallup had a webinar this morning, and we're very happy that this afternoon we will be having Vanessa for our effective virtual classroom. And if I may also share, John, I would like to invite John to share with us what will be happening on Saturday. That's tomorrow, because I'm sure not all of us are able to really join and watch all our webinars for this digital learning series. So tomorrow we will have a recap. So John, what will be happening tomorrow?
Hi. Hello, thanks, Kina. How's my line? Is it clear or am I chopping?
You're coming in clear now.
All right, amazing. So thank you so much, Kina, for that. For that segue. So what we're gonna do tomorrow, this is on Saturday, is we're gonna have a session called Chillax with PSTD. So this is going to be a session where we have chill conversations and then have actionable insights. You know, we understand how heavy sometimes the concepts are that you are receiving from all of the daily webinars that we're getting. So what we do is we will recap the major learnings from the week, and then we will have just a more relaxed, like kwentuhan, more relaxed and Taglish at that. So the more people will be able to relate, and we will use Tagalized, tangible, local examples. As you know, and as you can probably see, like people don't easily have an easy time adjusting to digital, right? It's not very easy. Like, for example, Kina, like as we are talking right now, you're experiencing that this is totally not the similar platform of face-to-face, right?
Yes.
So I think when
absolutely.
people see you and your vulnerability, they see that it's not that easy pala. But what we want to do with Chillax is we want to make people feel that, it's safe to try all of these things. That you can just provide your insights, that you can just be yourself, that you can just interact with us through an interactive session with the vice presidents of great companies who will talk to us just as if we're having coffee somewhere. That's what Chillax is, right? So we hope we can have you there with us tomorrow. That's going to be at 3 p.m. And you can just scan the code to register. The other good thing here is when you go tomorrow, bring a drink, like any basic drink, like bring coffee, bring water. If you don't have coffee, bring soda or whatnot, just for us to feel and replicate what we're doing face to face when we're doing some chill conversations. So tomorrow, I don't have a lot here at home, so I'll probably be like getting ice water with lemon. but I hope you get the idea. So we hope to see you guys there, and that's gonna be very exciting as we will be housed by Len Pozon and Nerissa Barba, who's coming from Security Bank and Pioneer Insurance. Okay, Ina.
I really hope everyone will be joining us tomorrow, because definitely the Chillax is, you don't get to have a talk with senior management, and that will be the nice time to just relax and talk about what's happening and what's affecting our institutions, our organization. And yes, right now you can see the slide showing our professional team. We would like to acknowledge, of course, the people behind the successful webinars and ET-Panas of PSTD, our professional team, headed by Maricel Benitez, the Executive Director. And of course, she's being joined by Nat, by Aleli, Jen, Grace, and Norman, and oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the last name. But definitely, we would like to thank everyone
That's
from our
Olin and Nat
yes,
and yeah,
and
Nat and
Olin, of course, Olin. I should never forget Olin. These people are working really hard for you to be able to witness our webinars, and especially when you register, these are the people who really try to respond to your queries regarding memberships, webinar registrations, ET-Panel registrations, and of course, the issuance of certificates, the e-certificates. Without our professional team, our webinars will be not that successful. So thank you to PSCD professional team. And yes, to our fellow practitioners, talent development and learning development practitioners, we would like to appeal, PSTD appeals to you. With the cause of Oakland Hope, we can't do this alone. Even if we would like to offer you free webinars, all the free webinars that we can offer you, we will be needing your support. So how are you going to do that? First is we would like you to go to our Facebook page, Facebook account, like our page and share our content. PSTD's Facebook account is facebook.com/mypstd. You can share this link so that your friends can also get to know what PSTD can offer. And secondly, for us to be operationally efficient and for us to really continue with the fundings, we would like to request those who are joining us today who are not yet members to kindly go to our FB page and click the link for membership. There are two types of membership: the individual and corporate membership that you can join. And for the new members, here are the takeaways. For new members who will be registering until June 15, 2020, you will be entitled to not just 12 months of membership, but 15 months. And of course, when you become a member, for individual members, you will be entitled to 2 free slots in any of our ET-Panans and paid webinars. And for the corporate members, you will be given 5 free slots that you can use either in attending the ET-Panan or again, any of our paid webinars. And of course, the community of practice. This is a very nice way for us to learn from those who are very digitally, can I say it, the experts in digital learning. So you will be entitled 1 slot for individual members, and for the corporate members, there will be 3 slots. And of course, it's not just the free webinars, the ET-Panas that you will be really enjoying. But what's important are the L&D resources that we'll be sharing with you. So again, we already have 466 participants. We would like to entice you to join us and become part of PSTD. And now you can see the upcoming paid webinars. If you are an individual member, a new individual member, you will be entitled to witness and to join any of these paid webinars. This morning, we had Gallup on focusing on your strengths to build resilience. But next week, starting off with Lisa Macuja Elizalde, our prima ballerina, our ballerina for a cause, who will be sharing with us her thoughts on finding strength in structure and discipline. This will be happening on May 14, and it will be followed by an itipanan with our past trustee Jody Salas, who will be talking about the right blend, a guide for using traditional and digital learning. Okay, so now for our attendees, there is a QR code that you can scan for you to go to the membership page. Or if you are accessing our FB page, you just need to scroll down to www.pstd.org's web page, and there is a portion at the bottom part of our website that you can click for membership queries and application. And now we are almost near our the most important part of this afternoon's webinar. Let me remind everyone that all of the attendees in this webinar will be muted to manage the flow information. For your questions, kindly make use of the Q&A tab that can be found at the bottom part of the screen. Your questions will definitely be answered by our speaker for this afternoon. And for any comments or inputs, we'd like to invite you to make use of the chat box. And of course, for those of you who are asking, how are you going to get your e-certificates? The e-certificates will only be issued to those who logged in as participants in this Zoom webinar and who stayed for 40 minutes. So after the webinar, our professional team will be sending you a post-evaluation form that you need to accomplish. And in return, you will be sent a copy of your e-certificate. At this point, I would like to present to you this afternoon's webinar entitled Effective Virtual Classrooms. And we are very fortunate to have again, for the second time, the current president of AITD, New South Wales Division. She is also the learning manager of GWA Group. She is one of our first generous speakers in the PSTD Learn From Home webinars, which was one of the highest attended webinars. In April 14, she did for us the Creating Positive Experiences in Digital Learning with 447 actual participants. And for this afternoon, we have 976 registrants. And in this room, we have 478 participants and counting. Congratulations, Vanessa. Vanessa Trower, our speaker for this afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to share my screen with you. All right. All right, so double check, John Keener, can you see my PowerPoint on the screen?
Oh, definitely.
Excellent. Am I coming through nice and clear on the audio?
Very clear, Van.
And you can see me on the video?
Oh, yes, very pretty.
As animated as you are, we can.
All right, wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you for that introduction, and just well done on all your webinars. It's absolutely phenomenal what you all have done and put together, and just that opportunity that you've all created for us to come together and learn. So I would like to just get started. That way we can really get the most out of this session. So thank you for joining this webinar today. And we're here to talk about effective virtual classrooms. My name is Vanessa Trower, and I'll be your facilitator for the next 45 minutes. So to really engage in this training and to get the most out of it, I encourage you to take some notes. So if you have a pen and paper nearby you, that's absolutely fantastic. If you can please get that out. If you don't, if you can grab your mobile phone and simply take notes with your mobile phone. You're more than welcome to take screenshots or take photos with your phone throughout the training if you'd like to refer back on them. Although, you know, if you really wanted to kind of take notes, I do encourage it because it really helps the learner retention on keeping that knowledge. So on your notepad, I always suggest to really think about why you've attended today's session. There's, you know, close to 500 of us on the call today, and so we're all here for different reasons. So just, you know, think about why you're here today. And what current project can you refer to while we're going through this training? So then you can contextualize it. So if I'm talking about a virtual classroom or converting a traditional training to digital, if you can think about a current project that you could implement this in, and then that could go into your action plan as well. You might also find really great tips in the chat box from other participants as we learn together. That can also go into your action plan. So after today, you can write down a couple of things so you can continue this learning journey. So I just want to do some culture setting. I tend to do this at the beginning of all my virtual learning events. So sharing experiences is encouraged, and please share that in the chat box. So whether or not I say write it in the chat box, you're more than welcome to share your experience in the chat box. Given there is so many of us on the line, I will attempt to read all of them, but just know I am glancing my eyes at them, but it is difficult, you know, for me to read them all. But please share all your knowledge so we can learn from each other. If technology fails, be forgiving. So, you know, I was saying before to Kina that Wi-Fi is like the weather. It's very unpredictable. It's fine and sunny Wi-Fi right now, but you know, you never know, it might just disconnect. So if my Wi-Fi fails, just give me a few minutes, I'll reboot and come back. And in that time, just, you know, review some of the learnings that we have talked about. Let me know if any of my Australian slang needs to be explained. I know sometimes, you know, us Australians are terrible at that. So please just be honest and let me know and I can explain that for you. In less than 1 hour, I just want to manage expectations. So what can you take away from the learning? So even if you walk away today with 1 or 2 extra nuggets of learning, excellent, that's fantastic. And I just want to say you're in the right place if you've come here to learn. You're in the right place if you're currently a learning professional and you've been given this enormous task to create traditional learning to digital learning. You're in the right place if you're feeling overwhelmed with it all. You're in the right place if you're an expert and you want to develop yourself even further. You're in the right place if you've just come to see what is this all about and how you can provide great learning experiences, because we're all here to just get that little bit better and develop our knowledge along the way. So for our learning outcomes today, I just want to define what is a virtual event, and really distinguish what's the difference between virtual classroom, virtual webinar, virtual conference, and how we could use that to really meet expectations of our learners. We want to create a list of creating effective virtual classrooms. We're going to summarize some communication tips that can support that effective classroom. We're going to reimagine traditional training to online. A lot of the conversations I've been having recently with learning professionals is how can I convert or adapt traditional learning to digital learning? And I'm going to give you some real examples on what I'm using. And that way you can see how I've built it, and you might want to take some of those examples for your programs. We're going to look at maximizing the potential of your hardware and software. I've got some, you know, technology here that I can show you along the way. And we're going to just look at some tools to create some visually appealing PowerPoint presentations, infographics, and job tools as well. And then post today, I don't want this to be the end of it. I want your learning to continue on this topic. So, you know, set yourself a project. So think about what you're currently working on, what you've learned today in this webinar, and what you can apply to that. So when you go back to the workplace, what you can start applying. If you're currently in a work situation where you're looking for work, well, maybe maybe you can create a small training module on, you know, something that you can share on LinkedIn to add to your portfolio, which is a really great idea at this point. And we've got some free resources. So following today's session, I'm just going to be giving a booklet, and I'll give it to John to post to you all, whether it's with your certificate or on the website, just around this topic as well. All right, so excellent work for everyone who was able to do the pre-learning activity. This was sent out in the email, but if you haven't done the pre-learning, that's absolutely fine. So what the pre-learning was, and you're welcome to do it now if you've got a mobile phone handy on you, is to just go to this URL and was to really ask, what does effective virtual classroom environment look like to you? And these are some of the responses that a few of you wrote, and I'm just going to give you all a few seconds to read the screen.
Vanessa,
Yes.
while people are reading, I just want you to know that we are now at 505 participants.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. I can't seem to get the chat box up, but never to fear. Maybe if you write a chat, it will pop up for me.
Yeah, people are writing now in chat box. So one of the ways by which you can see that is sometimes it appears on the view options in Zoom, either above you in one of the panels. And then if you click that, you'll be able to see the chat portion.
Okay, that's not working for me, but let me try something else.
Yep.
Okay, let me go. No, it's not working.
How about below? Sometimes it's really just a play of the cursor. So when you put your cursor in one of the panels, one of them will show and you will see. Otherwise, what I can do, there's another thing I can do. I can transfer hosting to you.
No, let's not mess with it.
All right.
I was
Cool.
like,
No
if it's not broken, like let's not fix it. Okay,
Right.
let's try this. No, let's give it a go. Good idea. Let's give it a go. So I'm going into chat. Can't find it. Going down the bottom. No, can't find that.
Beside the Q&A button.
Got it. We're on. Excellent.
Amazing.
Thank you. That's wonderful, because I do want to be able to hear. Okay, wonderful. So you just looking at some of the responses that you have all written on what makes an effective virtual classroom for you was quite interesting. I often say, how do we know what our learners want? Just ask them. So this is a great way before the training course to say, what makes an effective virtual classroom for you? And if you look at some of these responses, this is actually a learner-centered approach. So for those of you who attended my previous webinar, you would be familiar with that, and I will recap that in a session. But let's move on. I just want to define virtual classroom. So using the chat box, looking at this definition, what are the key words that define the definition of virtual classroom? And can you write those in the chat box? So what are the key words in that definition that define? So we've got online, interaction, shared space. Online, I can see your chat coming through. If you're on Facebook Live and you can't use the chat box, you can write it on the bottom there, or you can yell it out. Online, shared space, rich in content, digital platform. Exactly. Really great. So those are the key words that define a virtual classroom. So I'm going to put on the screen here the ones that really kind of stood out for me. So I had online interaction, participating really stood out for me, learning activities, shared online space, and working together simultaneously. So that was really about the virtual classroom. And if you look at the image on the right, this is probably a really good way of doing it. So it's online, it seems to be interactive because the teacher is, you know, transferring knowledge. It's a shared online space and they're working simultaneously as well. So recapping some of my learnings from my previous webinar. Now, if you didn't get the opportunity to attend my previous webinar, that's okay. What I've done, I've curated that information, and on my LinkedIn under articles, I've curated everything that was the lessons, so you can go on there and read it. But one of the things I talked about in creating a positive learning experience was around learner-centered learning, creating positive experience. And we looked at there's two different types. So you've got on the left-hand side, if we're both looking at the same left, which is teacher-centered training. So that's where you have the expert or the SME that's passing that knowledge on to students. So that's very similar to me talking now. And on the other side, you've got student-centered, or sometimes it's called learner-centered. And what that means is we're collaboratively working together. It's more of a facilitation. We're using the chat box. We're going into breakout rooms. And often what you find is what creates an effective learning experience for an adult is the learner-centered approach. So what we'll have a look at is how we can embed some of that into our training as well. And it's interesting because if I go back to, you know, the responses from the pre-learning, majority of those are actually learner-centered. So it's not a one-way communication. It's actually all of us together. So in your notes, if you just want to write some of those around, you know, maybe research learner-centered activities. And I think that's a great starting point around creating your training. All right, so we looked at defining what is a virtual classroom, and now what I'd like to do is really define the differences. So we're looking at what is a virtual classroom, and what is a virtual webinar, and what is a workshop, and what is a conference. Do you know more? So if you know any other ones that you've heard, if you can write those in the chat box, even though my chat box has disappeared, but that's fine, I'll kind of get that back. If you know any other ones, if you can please write that in the chat box on what is the other ones that you've seen. Excellent. Webcast, micro seminar. Oh, that's a good one, actually. That's a really good one. Micro seminar, webcast, masterclass, virtual laboratory. I like that one. Excellent. Yeah, awesome. So you can see there's quite a few different ones. And so what this allows us is some variety, and it's really around choosing what is the best one to use. So really, what is your outcome? How many participants you have? So I've put together a diagram or a chart here. Excuse my font, it's not perfect right now, but I've just put together on, this is really what I work off. So if I start from the left, virtual classroom, to me, a virtual classroom is best. Now, I'm looking at effective, so I'm going to tell you what I think would deliver the best outcomes. So in a virtual classroom, it's great to have 12. I generally say if you're going to have 12 in a classroom, have 12 in the virtual classroom. And often what I find is that because we have Zoom capability or your platform capability to go to 50 or 100, we're actually putting 50 or 100. But how would you manage that in face-to-face as a teacher or as a trainer? That's very difficult to manage 100 or 200 in a room. So in fact, in a virtual space, if you want really effective training, 4 to 12 is ideal. So if you're thinking about 4, it might be a really concentrated topic you can have, and 12 would be ideal. Of course, you could push it a little bit more as long as you can manage all that interaction. Here it looks at, do the webcams come on, audio? Would you use breakout rooms? So that's where you can assign them different breakout rooms. They can go in there, brainstorm a particular topic, and then pull them back into the main room. Chat box moderation, absolutely. In a virtual classroom, you would want to do that. Could you do that in a virtual conference? You could, but what that would mean is you would definitely need a moderator. So when you're going to a webinar or a virtual conference, you're definitely going to need someone to help you that can moderate those questions for you, because it can be quite a lot to have a look at maximum 10,000 people that you could potentially have on a virtual conference. Down the bottom here, I've put whether it's trainer or learner centered. So if you're looking at a virtual classroom, it's very learner centered. So the activities that you create, you want people to talk, discuss, share ideas, and you're facilitating. Although with a webinar, what you're finding is it's trainer centered. So you're actually having where a lot of the information is coming from the subject matter expert and then going to the learners. So really what you want to do is choose what one is best for what you want to deliver. So if I look at the suggested time as well, I absolutely think it's fine to have a webinar that's 90 minutes because they'll be able to have a better experience and really learn the topic a lot better. And it's absolutely okay to have it 45 minutes. So it's depending on how much content. You can absolutely take breaks as well. And with a workshop, this one here, what makes a workshop different? Well, it's all about learner-centered activities. So with a workshop, similar to that virtual laboratory idea, you could actually go straight into the virtual workshop and take them into breakout rooms where they're doing an activity. I'll just give you a moment if you want to take some extra notes on that. Okay, so let's go to, do we have the polls set up? Just double check if we can push out that poll. Is that possible to push that out now?
Vanessa,
yes.
Is it the I'm here today because poll or
yes.
the picture?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm here today because. Do you want me to launch it now?
Yes, if you can push out the first poll.
All right.
All right, so while this is on the screen, we thought we'll do a poll today and really trying to, have a look at where we're at, why we're here today. So I'm here today due to COVID and we can't do face-to-face. Now, while we're asking these questions, it really gives me insight as a facilitator to look at how I can steer my conversations with you.
We're now at 25%, 30% responses, 35% responses. 50% responses. People are really hot on their keyboards.
Hot, hot, hot.
Right.
So people on Facebook Live, are you able to vote, or on Facebook
no,
they're not able? Okay.
No, just in Zoom. So we will only be able to show it here. Sorry.
So those who are on Facebook Live, you can really think about your response on why you've come today. So is it because, you've been creating training, or are you currently delivering training online?
Right. And they can also put it in the comment box, Vanessa, like of the
Okay.
Facebook, the actual Facebook Live so that people will see. Vanessa, we're now at 67%.
Excellent.
Do you want us to end or do you want us to wait a bit more?
We can just wait a few more seconds.
Sure. That's 350
I'm just reading the questions
responses
in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So when facilitating a virtual classroom, is it necessary for participants to turn on their video? How do you manage their focus? Great question. So I say if you would like them to set up video and webcam, which I do let them know in the email beforehand. So this really provides psychological safety around, will I be in a comfortable place? Do I know how to blur my background? Do I know how to do a virtual background? So I always say, if you're doing a virtual classroom and you are asking them to put on webcam, very important that you provide that psychological safety, and in your pre-email confirmation, maybe attach a video to say, we will be using webcams for this training to enhance the learner experience. Please click on this video that will show you how to use Zoom and how to put virtual backgrounds. That would just get everyone comfortable around, they might not be in a really nice spot. They might be, they might want to share their personal background. So that just allows them that safety.
We're now at 75%, Vanessa.
Okay, so you can finish that, the poll, which is great.
Okay.
Excellent. So I've got the results here. And so what we've got is 67% of you are here because of COVID and you can't do face-to-face, and you're going to have to adapt the courses. And then the second highest was, I'm currently delivering online, but I'm happy to develop my skills. Okay, excellent. That's good. So that just allows me to know how to steer my conversations. Okay, so the next one I'm going to have a look at is skills in creating effective virtual classrooms. All right, so we're going to go straight into another poll. Now, before you launch that poll, John, can everyone look at this slide here? And whether you're on Facebook or you're on Zoom, if you can look at this slide, and how are you currently feeling? So 67% of you are having to change your traditional methods to digital methods. So looking at these here, and don't write it in the chat box, this is just for you, but we are going to launch a poll. And John, if you can launch that poll, and the poll will come up from 1 to 6, which one is really how you're feeling. And remember, this poll is anonymous, so we can't see who's written what. It's just around knowing that others do feel the same as us.
Yep, poll is launched now, Vanessa.
Wonderful.
We're now at, like, very, very quickly, 25%.
And you don't have to write that in the chat box. You can definitely just put it on the poll. That way it just provides us, you know, all that confidentiality to how we're feeling. But if you want to write it in the chat box, if you're feeling Superman, go for it. I have a cat, but that is not my cat. If my cat did that, I'd be a little bit worried, to be honest.
We have 65% now, Vanessa.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think you can launch the results now, and let's have a look. In this poll, yes, we were just allowed to launch one. All right, wonderful. So just looking at the results, so majority of us feel that we're climbing the mountain with a group, and that's a really good space to be right now. So climbing the mountain with a group, it means that you've got those resources, you've found people to help you here in the world. It's a huge mountain and you're starting to climb it. I'm a big fan of Michael Jordan. So, you know, for me, seeing my hero, you know, emotional is something that I can definitely resonate with. And so, you know, 4% of us are feeling like that. And sightseeing possibilities, not quite sure yet, 28%. So all of you are in the right space. And I think one of the reasons why I think this is a really good activity is to know that there are others out there that feel the same as you. And I've put them in some sort of order. So I feel that, you know, my journey through the continuum, if I look at my own experiences, is very similar to this. And I don't feel that I'm Superman. I definitely, you know, get bumped down a little bit depending on a new task comes up. But it really is about moving through that continuum. So you might be just exploring some opportunities, and you might be looking at everybody else. You might be saying, okay, this is what you do. And then you start to try, and then it gets very challenging and you get upset because it didn't work, and that's normal. Then you move into the 3, and I feel like, oh no, this is seriously, head on the keyboard moments. I'm still there sometimes. It happens to all of us. And then you realize, I can't do this alone, because this is an enormous task. I can't do this alone. So you start gathering your resource and you start climbing that big mountain on your own. And then you go, I got this. Like, I'm a cool cat. I got this. And that's really, you know, what you're aiming for. You got that, you know, cool cat moment. And then you try a new task, and then you're going back to number 3, and then 4, and then 5 again. And then when you launch the program, you're like, I'm Superman. So just really thinking about this when you are giving it a go, that what you're experiencing is quite normal, even for an expert at, you know, someone that's been doing it for quite a few years like myself. I still have all these different emotions. Okay, so what skills are needed to create an effective virtual classroom? So if you want to use the chat box and just say, what skills do you think are needed to create virtual classrooms? So you got creativity coming through, and on Facebook you can write in the chat box. So creativity, design skills, I think innovation, absolutely. So you think about technology, empathy, absolutely. Instructional design skills, computer literate, technology savvy, connection, engaging, patience, entertainment, graphic design, excellent. And you can keep writing those. I'm going to go on to a slide that I've put together that shows the 10 roles that I believe is creating virtual classrooms. And the reality is, it's very challenging for us to have all of these. Not even myself is an expert in all of these, but it's acknowledging that the skills in creating a virtual classroom actually comes from a little bit of all of them. So if you think about the instructional designer, that's actually putting the session plans together, creating the activities. Knowledgeable in neuroscience. So this is how people best learn, how people best retain knowledge. Such a good topic to really look into. In your notes, I really encourage looking into the neuroscience of learning. The facilitator, what is being a great facilitator? So a collaborative environment, warm, empathetic, understands psychological safety, gets the group, facilitates ideas. The content coach, subject matter expert. The master communicator, so that's really around vocals, expression, body language. What else could it be? It could be how you ask questions, how you paraphrase. The visual designer, having to use PowerPoint slides, having to create infographics, having to put workbooks together. The platform and technology specialist, the master administrator, replying emails, setting up Zoom, ensuring the confirmation emails, the social leader. When you think about virtual classrooms, you really are the social leader. You might have some, quiet learners in the room, and it's how you get everyone to work together. So you really take on that social leader role. And I've put the last one as authentic persona and builds personal brand. And I feel that it's actually quite important. Because in a traditional learning environment, like where you've got them face to face, they actually get to know you. They get to hear your laugh. They get to see your humor. They get to see what you had for lunch, and you get to have a little bit, of personal connectivity. But when it comes to virtual and you've just met them, it's actually difficult if it's just there and then. So building your personal brand, and if that's something that's new to you, just have a look. There's some great tools online about building your personal brand. And I really say, just be yourself, be authentic. So be authentic and let people know who you are, and your funny jokes or just your personality as it is great. So a bit of a self-assessment, and this is just for your own worksheet. Don't share this in the chat box. Which ones are your strengths and which ones can you develop? So which ones are your strengths and which ones can you develop? And so even someone like myself, I do go through all of these and say, okay, well, I need to develop, which one I need to develop. And so it's really good to have a look at your strengths and your development areas. And one of the things is your development areas, you might actually lean on somebody else who's really great at that. So for me, I might say, okay, well, I might actually get someone to be the social leader, or I might actually need someone to do this particular one. So just being able to break it up. And this is when you start to climb that mountain and you start to say, you know what, I can do this. I'm just going to get someone to help me with the visual side. Actually, I might get someone who's very good at neuroscience of learning, and I might show them my program and say, what do you think? How could I help them retain the knowledge a little bit more? So we'll move on to the next one. In the chat box, which ones do you think also apply to traditional learning? So which ones also apply to traditional learning? All of them. So Ria's put all of them, same, number 1, number 3. Yeah, majority of them actually still apply. So we've got different responses here. I think majority of them still apply. I think there's some of them that we're having to really focus on. For example, the platform and technology expert. I think we're also having to focus on being the master administrator because there's a lot of correspondence coming back and forward. I think the master communicator, that's something we have to focus on as well, because we're having to get engagement online, whereas in a classroom, we've have everyone in one room. The curriculum designer, which is another word for instructional designer, that's one of them that applies in the traditional sense as well. So I think what I wanted to do with this one is to really acknowledge that you're actually doing a lot of these things anyway, but it's really kind of picking out now, well, which ones do I need to develop for the virtual side? So let's have a look at a few of those different ones. I know we don't have a lot of time together here today, but I really want you to walk away today with some additional skills to really make you feel that little bit more confident to climb that mountain. So we'll look at some facilitator communications. So here are ones that really make an effective virtual facilitator in a classroom. And I'm just going to give you a moment to read through them, and I encourage you to take a photo or take some notes if you can. And the reason why I find these so effective is because in a virtual classroom, you're trying to get engagement. You're trying to, get the learners to collaborate. And so it's around having these questions to really get the learners to engage and participate to make it an effective environment. And as a facilitator, that's what we're doing. We're drawing that engagement together. So I'll give you a few seconds to read through those, and I'll just catch up on the chat box. So Nina's asked a question, how do you break out rooms virtually? This is a great question. I encourage you to actually look at the Zoom YouTube channel, and they actually have great videos on how to do that. Okay, so hopefully you've taken a few notes on the screen, and I really encourage using those. So in your next virtual session, just take one of them and give one of them a practice. So how the paraphrasing might look like. So the students have said something and how you paraphrase so you can ensure that they go, oh, you understand it, and you're both on the same page. All right. Let's reimagine traditional methods for online. And I suppose looking at the poll, 67% of you are here for this today. So let's take this example here, and I know there's a lot of us on the line, so it was hard for me to choose a topic. So I've gone with customer resolution. We're going to do a case study. So this was a traditional course. It was 7 hours delivery face-to-face in the classroom. We had some pre-learning activities. There was some course materials, but it was really 7 hours where a full day, and the employees were coming in for a training course. During that face-to-face training course, we did have icebreakers, we had the trainer delivery, we did some role plays, and we had a workbook. I hope this is sounding fairly familiar to some of you on the line. So let's have a look at how this might look if we are having to convert it for COVID-19, but also just because we're ready to move into the digital space. Okay. So this is what it might look like when we're adapting. It's still 7 hours delivery. So adapting to blended, it's customer resolution. What I would do is I would split it up over 2 days, 9:30 to 11, virtual session 1, 1 till 3, virtual session 2, and then I'll have day 2. So we're still actually having 7 hours delivery. We're still having it within 1.5 hours, 2 hours. So we're not having a mind blow for everyone on the line. We're having a virtual icebreaker activity. We're still having trainer content, and we are breaking into breakout rooms, polls and quizzes. And what you'll find is that 1.5 hours will go very quickly. Okay, let's have a look at another example. What you might do is you might start to advance a little bit, and you might say, okay, I will actually have pre-learning. So I'll get them to read an article, watch a video, maybe do an e-learning, and maybe some self-paced training before coming. A reflection activity. So when I asked you all to go to LinkedIn prior to coming, that's a reflection activity. A reflection activity for customer resolution might be look at a current call that you have got around customer resolution, write down the case study, what the customer called from, how did you handle this? That might be a bit of a reflection. You might do introductions on a collaboration tool. So prior to coming, they might go to their work intranet, there might be a collaboration tool, and you might have a technology platform overview. You might split the virtual session into 2. So you might have week 1 and week 2. I really encourage this. What it allows for, you can add individual projects. So you can say virtual session 1 for 3.5 hours, for example, or 3 hours. You might do the breakout rooms, and you might give them a project to complete around with their customers. You might then, the next week, you start with reviewing all their projects, so what they found, continue the delivery, and then you might break them up into a group activity. So you might say, going back, how you might do that group activity, and post learning, how can you continue that? So is that via collaboration tool, learner feedback, and then of course your course evaluation and ROI. You might want to change this as well. So you might say, you know what, just one virtual classroom session is okay. And you might back it up with some e-learning. So you might say, okay, I'm going to do 4 times e-learning modules after it. Or you might actually do a flipped learning approach. So what that might say is you might actually say to them, I want them to do the e-learning first. This is flipped learning. It will give them the foundational knowledge, really set them up with the knowledge. And when they come into the virtual classroom, you might concentrate on really cementing some of that knowledge. So take them into breakout rooms, doing those role plays, talking about what they learned, reflecting on their customer experiences and so forth. All right, but we're just going to look at the virtual classrooms because that's what we're here. I hope you took away a few photos of that, or if not, you know, of course, the slides will be available to you. I'm happy to do that. So let's have a look at the virtual classrooms and how you can make that bit effective. So firstly, I will very much encourage a session plan. This is what my session plans look like. Okay, so I'm okay to share my you know, documents with you. So you can see here, I always encourage a session plan. It just allows me to keep on track, and having these icons here, this is just a Word document. It actually gives me an idea of all the different activities to create that. So really good idea to take a photo now, but you'll get the slides anyway. So you can see a mix of what you're saying, discussions, personal reflection. So even the polls that we did were personal reflection, storytelling. Is it a video? Phone another learner is a very good one. If you've got a virtual classroom of 10 people, you might just get them to phone another learner. You've got some virtual whiteboards you can use, or if you can see behind me here, I've got some flip charts. So I would normally actually in a classroom go up there and I can draw on that as well and they can see that. And then of course on your session plan, similar to what you would have in a face-to-face environment, I put a picture of the slide, what the mode is, so from the top, and then my script on what I say. And the reason why I do that is just to really keep on track and ensure that there's consistency amongst all the different sessions. Now there's a number of different session plan designs or templates out there, but this is definitely one that I like to use. So if we look at the virtual icebreaker, for me, the virtual icebreaker is such a big one because that is the difference. If I think about what I love in face-to-face and what I love about, you know, what's missing in virtual, for me, it's that sense of people. It's that, you know, coming together and having a bit of fun. So I've put here 3 different examples of what a virtual icebreaker would look like. Now, it's very important when you choose your icebreaker, you have to think of what is the intent of it. So, for example, the favorite song. Maybe your icebreaker is that people can sing or hum their favorite song, and other people in the room will guess what that song is. The intent of that is to get people comfortable, a bit of laughing, a bit of fun, just, you know, getting everyone together. If you think about the sketching one where you get people to, you know, draw a picture and hold it up to the webcam, what would be the purpose of that? It's to get people familiar with the platform, but you might get them to draw a picture of themselves. Or you might say, draw a picture that best represents you, and it doesn't have to be great. So I might draw a butterfly and a cat because Vanessa means butterfly. And then it just gets a way for people to, you know, engage with each other. And in the within arm's reach one is really just grab an item around you and tell everyone else what it is. And I might draw some markers and say, because I like to draw animation. So for me, I might draw some, you know, hold up my markers and people go, oh, that's interesting. So within arm's reach. Now, if you want more, there's a web link down the bottom that lists a whole bunch of different virtual icebreakers. But I think these are some really great ones to start with. All right, so now maximizing the most out of your hardware. So I know some of you have said on the polls that you are quite new to this, but I actually am going to show you the best of the best. And I think that's great. If you can see how it's done at expert level, then you know what the capability is. I've attended a lot of webinars lately, and it's really aimed at the beginner level, but I think it's great to really look at what is expert level, and then you know what the sky is and you can start to aim for it. So firstly, the best use of your software. I strongly encourage this. Look at your software, go on to, YouTube and go Zoom. How do I do polls? Zoom. How do I share screen? Zoom. How do I use the whiteboard? And Zoom have a whole bunch of different little videos, but whatever platform. In fact, I use GoToTraining, which is another platform, but there's a number of different ones, really great ones out there. And if you can write in the chat box, which one are you using at your workplace? So we've got Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams also has a whiteboard. Okay, excellent. So we've got a number of different ones. So you can see all the different options. Really great if you want to write some notes in the chat box, what everyone else is doing. It's always good to learn what the person next door is doing. So a breakout room is where Zoom has the functionality to switch on, or actually majority of the platforms have this functionality. I don't want to be Zoom favoritism here, but what it is, you can create, for example, 10 rooms as an example, and I can put 5 learners in one room, 5 learners in the other room, 5 learners in the other room. And in those those virtual rooms, it's just those learners communicating with each other. And then when you're ready, you can take them back. So it's really great I use the breakout rooms to pair 2 people up, 2 people up, and 2 people up, and they can do their role plays. And then when the activity's over, you can take them back to the main room for us to all talk about how their role play went and what their experience was. So make best use of your software. The other tip that I'm going to give you, and I didn't put this on my PowerPoint side, is make good use of trial versions. Just be mindful of when you switch it on and when you have to switch it off, but make good use of trial versions. There's a lot of software out there that say, free trial. Why not? Give it a go, but just make sure you put in your calendar to switch it off in case you don't like it. And down the bottom, I've got some free software that I use just to share with you. Idea Boards is free. It's a really great tool where everyone in the virtual class can actually go on and share their ideas. It's free and it works, pretty good. Slack is also a free option. This is a collaboration tool. I find this to be really useful. It's got a chat box. You can share documents. It's got up to 10,000 messages for free, which is quite enough for a learning environment, but you might find your own workplace has a collaboration tool. SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey's come a long way. They've got some great functionality. You can use that for polls, tools. You can have a look at it pre-learning, how you could possibly use that. I definitely love SurveyMonkey as well. I think it's come a long way. And check out the training videos for your platform to make the most of the software that you have. None of us are really in the position right now to go out and buy new software because, given the current economic situation. So really make use of what you've got. Have a look around and see what you've got. So what about videos and webcams? Well, here's actually a video of my workplace. You can actually see the Sydney Harbour in the background. So this is how we set up, and I don't know if this video will play, but that's okay. So just what I want to show you is, and I've got it right here, I'm using 2 webcams today. So I use the webcam and I mount it on a tripod. And what that allows me to do is I find that with communicating, it feels more, body language, better communication. You could use the whiteboard. At expert level, Zoom or other platforms allow 2 webcams. So it actually goes view second webcam. So what I would do is I place the second tripod right in front of there, and that's reflecting on the board, and I can continue to write. And so I've got one right here and one on this second one as well. So this is really expert level, but just so you know what people can do. So that requires 2 webcams, and your platform actually just has a button that goes show second webcam, show first webcam. I do facilitate with 2 different monitors. The reason why I do that, I log in with one as a learner. So I come up with a fake name like Vanessa and my maiden name. And then that way I can see what the learners are looking at. That way I always know what page I'm up to. And then I can see all the webcams that are on. And then I do use lighting. Now for me, the lighting was $14 online. I bought it off Amazon. And I've just taped it to an old tripod. But the reason why I need lighting is because when we're delivering content internationally, it might be nighttime and the lights in the building might not be great. So for me, it's around having that light. Otherwise, they might not be able to see the facilitator and the boards quite correctly. So I'll see if this works. It might not. But this video, okay, so what you might also see is the audio. And I'm just going to show you here. So this is an option where you can have an external speaker. So it's just plugged in via USB. And so that's what he had on the chair in front of him. It's almost like a conference cam, a conference speaker. And if you have a conference speaker, make use of it. So you can dial into the conference line. The next option, which is, I find this the best option, and this was like, I think $10 off Amazon, but this plugs into your mobile phone and you can actually put the lapel mic here and then plug it into your mobile phone. And then on Zoom, you'd be dialing into the conference line. So that might actually get a really great sound if you want to stand up and facilitator. And of course, the last option or the third option, I'm sure there's other options out there, is using a headset. And there's many different headsets, but probably the safest option as well. I'm all for wired, so there's no interruption, but you can get wireless, which are really cool ones as well, but they cost a little bit more than wired. So what do the participants see or the learners see? Well, here you can see it's very clear to see the flip chart. There's body language, and then that's where you can use your whiteboard as well. So that was similar to that picture right at the beginning with the maths teacher showing. And I am conscious for time. That reminds me of the old CD player. Very nice. All right, let's have a look. So we're coming towards the end of the session. I'm very aware of time, so hopefully you can stay a few minutes more on the line. Okay, creating visually appealing presentations, infographics. So this is my last kind of nugget for today. I thought I would share with you. You might like my slides. You might think they're too busy or too colorful. You know, you can't please everyone, but the aim is to really try. Okay, so you want to keep it simplistic, but at the same time, you want to make sure that your pictures really fit your message. We're all in tune to read images, so try and pick an image that really relates to what you're saying. So how do I create my presentations? I use Canva. So if you're not familiar with Canva, I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration. So on Canva, there's a free option. You actually go on and it allows you to create all these different infographics or posters. You can even get a workbook and you're basically updating those workbooks as well. So I go on to the presentation and it gives me a whole list of different PowerPoint presentations that I would like to adapt to. So you can see my one here, effective virtual classrooms. And I've got some other ones that I use in the workplace around creating leaderboards for learning activities. All right, so just go on and we'll have a bit of Q&A time. I know we're very short for time and I know I sped through the last bit, but let me read your chat box. And Kina, do you want to have a Q&A session?
Hi, Vanessa.
Hello.
Vanessa, we have some of our participants are quite curious about conducting virtual workshops as compared to virtual rooms, the use of virtual rooms. As what Tony mentioned in our Q&A box, the Philippine classroom setting usually has 30 to 50 students in size, what would you suggest to run for this kind of setup? Will a virtual workshop be better over a virtual classroom?
Okay, so let's say you got 50 people. If you were pairing them up in a traditional training, how many would you pair in a group? So if you were doing activities in a traditional classroom, face-to-face, and you had 50 people in the room, how many would you pair in a group to do an activity? 5.
Usually, yes, around 5 to 6. 5 to 6
Okay.
is the ideal size.
Excellent. So I would do the same in the virtual sense. Exactly the same. So I would create, if you got 50 people, and then you want 5 people in each breakout room, then you want 10 different breakout rooms.
Okay.
And then what you can do is for the workshop, make sure you create those breakout rooms and set the activities straight away. So they've come into the workshop, you introduce, welcome to our virtual workshop today. We're going to break out into 10 different rooms and you have an activity to complete in the room.
Thank you, Vanessa, for answering that that question. I'm sure that now Tony will have a better buy-in for conducting virtual classrooms. And there's also another question here, because for us here in the Philippines to really get the buy-in of top management in doing e-learnings and virtual classroom setups, ROI is very important. How do you think should virtual classrooms and webinars be measured in terms of ROI?
It's a great question. It depends on what you want to measure. So if you're going to measure on the ROI cost calculations, well then your ROI is what money that you've saved but been able to deliver. So that's one ROI in terms of cost calculations. If you're going to look at learning outcomes, well then it goes back to identify your learning outcomes. What do you want them to learn? And then you actually map that and say, yes, we achieved that in that activity. We achieved that in that delivery there. We achieved that in that activity. So you're still able to measure those outcomes. So in fact, the same way that you would measure your ROI in a face-to-face environment is very similar to what you would do in the virtual environment. A lot of these, what we're doing in the virtual space is actually very similar. So I encourage you to look at how are you measuring ROI now and say, okay, how might I do that in the virtual space? For me, a lot of the ROI looks at performance outcomes and did we achieve that learning outcome? So for example, all of you on the training today, if we look at can we, and if we go through the learning outcomes, can you define the different types of virtual events? So virtual workshop, virtual classroom, virtual conference. Can you define the differences? What skills are needed in creating? So that goes back to those 10 different roles of the instructional designer to the master communicator. Can you summarize the different communications? So that's with the paraphrasing, all those different probing questions that we looked at. Can you reimagine traditional methods for online? So that was where I gave those examples where we had a customer resolution training and then we pieced it out into over one day and over the second day or over the second week. So just starting to reimagine on what this could look like. Can you start to maximize the hardware and the software of what you're using? And can you discover a tool like Canva, or there's Google presentations that John and I were talking about prior. Now, for me, if I was to measure the ROI of this 1 hour investment into a webinar, if I came back to you a week later and I said to you, post coming to the webinar, have you implemented X? Have you tried looking at the tools X? Have you looked at, if there was, that to me would be an ROI on the 1 hour investment.
Thank you, Vanessa. That's quite interesting, and definitely now we'll have a better chance of getting the buy-in of our management.
I
John,
suppose
we have, yes, please, Vanessa.
Sorry. I suppose when it comes to like customer resolution, you can measure
Mhm.
ROI a lot easier because you can listen to the calls and see if the customer resolution, the performance is getting better. And, you know, that goes around those NPS scores or whatever measurements. So to me, I'd actually link it back to how it's measured performance and really have a look at those ROI. So having a look at what was the performance before attending training, they've attended the virtual training, done the e-learning modules, and then you measure maybe a 1 week later or a second week
Mhm.
later.
And that will definitely work well also with virtual classroom trainings.
Yes, I hope you all take some of the learnings today, and I really encourage you to all really give it a go.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for your sharing. And at this point, we still have questions, but since we have already reached the end of our webinar, and your questions will be sent to Vanessa. And earlier, a link was flashed where you can send additional questions for Vanessa.
Right.
There it is here. So on the
Yes.
link down the bottom, if some of your answers I wasn't able to respond to them due to time, simply go onto that URL down the bottom. I've got a question. What is TinyURL? TinyURL is a free tool that just converts a long URL to a very short one. So for example, that will take you straight to my LinkedIn page, and you can try out tinyurl.com and you can put a URL then, and it will just take them straight through.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. At this point, I would like to turn over the floor to John for our announcements before we end this webinar. And again, thank you, Vanessa, for sharing with us your thoughts on the importance of conducting effective virtual classrooms. And we hope that our participants, there was a total of more than 500 Zoom participants in this webinar this afternoon that really learned a lot from you. And I'm sure they got important inputs on how they are going to go about in facilitating virtual classroom trainings.
Thank you, Kina. And just remember, everyone, we're all trying to climb that big mountain, and just, you know, grab a couple of friends to climb that mountain with you, and we can all do it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that message, and thank you, Kina. I just want to highlight three things, and I won't just be talking about announcement. I want to be able to talk about, number one, how we appreciate Vanessa very much. Vanessa has already administered this first training. She actually opened big for us last April 14 when she talked about how to create positive experiences through digital learning. I'm not sure, but Vanessa is one of the highest scoring post-evals in the history that we've created PSCD Learn from Home. That's 15 sessions going today, and up until now, she's still on the top of the rank. And I think you will see that, mainly because when she started to deliver all of these webinars, it's impossible that you will not be able to take away a lot from it, mainly because she shares very tangible learnings. And at the same time, she uses her expert ability to communicate it through the images and the slides that she's able to design and create. So that mix of design and facilitation is just impeccable. And Vanessa, thank you so much for, like, even when you already have that high expertise, you share that to us, because not a lot of us have that type of capability and capacity at the moment. Yeah. So that's very important for us. The second one that I want to highlight is that Vanessa is also closing our first season for PSCD Learn from Home. So we talked about the first season that focused on how to digitize learning, the roles that leaders play during crisis, and also how to support teams during the pandemic. We will be releasing the next season very soon, and that's starting next week. The theme for season 2 of PSCD Learn from Home series is really Resilience 2.0. How do we bounce back? Because a lot of us would want to go out of these lockdown, a lot of us would want to go out of the quarantine, but we have to understand that it's not very easy to do that. And I'm sure a lot of you are already feeling that pressure because some of your organizations are already preparing on going back on the road, even if we don't know if we will be able to get back there. So we want to be able to help you out by having workshops and seminars and webinars on resilience, on strengths, on being able to reflect on yourself, reflect with your team, understanding what your purpose is within the organization, understanding what your core values are within your organization. So that when you go back to that better normal or to that new normal or whatever normal that is after this one, we will be able to equip you better, right? You will be more resilient. You will be stronger when you get back. That's the next season for PSTD's Learn From Home. And let me highlight then the biggest takeaway for this session and for the first season. The biggest takeaway here is really to just try it out. There is no other way but to try things out, especially when all of us are trying to transition into this new digital world, into this new normal. There is no way. I was telling you, like, for example, you saw Kina today. This is very brave of Kina to do. She's not very comfortable with a digital platform. It's not very easy to stay in front of 500 people without seeing their facial reactions, their nonverbal reactions. When you are used to face-to-face audiences, it's not easy. So, but Kina tried to play on her strengths, right? So you saw her, she maintained the clarity of her communication, she maintained her pace, and she was able to retain attention by making sure that she processed information so that all of this will be clearer to you when the Q&A arrived. And because she tried. And that's very important for all of us because when we started all of these webinar sessions, like in the first day, and you can watch that first video of me moderating, I totally am terrible. But now I don't care because I feel more confident. I feel more, I understand the buttons in Zoom now. I understand how to support a moderator. I understand how to support a speaker just in case something goes wrong. And that was because we tried. And we didn't just try, we tried 14 times, right? We tried to do all of these over and over again, and we tried to iterate, we tried to improve. After having the first session, we made sure that there's an evaluation. We watched ourselves, we make sure that we are learning something so that on the next session, we will be able to do something different and something new. And for me, that is one of the most important things. And Vanessa was right, when she said a while ago that, we have to give it a go. All of us are climbing this big mountain. So you don't have to worry about that because everyone is beside you when you are going to try it out. So try that step now. If you haven't tried it yet, try it now. And all of those 14, 15 learnings that you've attended will all go to waste if you don't give it a shot. And that's my main point as we end this season, this first season of PSTD Learn From Home. Take the shot. We are here for you. You can ask us questions. You can add me in LinkedIn, send me a message in LinkedIn. My name is there. I will answer your questions. And for people who know me, and some of the people are watching probably now, like Flary, Lulin, and all of the other people that I've responded to in Messenger, I'm very generous with responses. Ask me questions there too, in the same way that you can ask Vanessa questions. Because all of us are going to learn from one another here. And if we're going to transition into that culture together, we need to help one another with that too, in terms of tips and in terms of knowledge. So please take that shot. Try, iterate, improve. And then when you're there, you share the learning to other people because all of these things you got for free. All of the 14, 15 speakers that we got, they're for free, right? So use them, share the blessings. So Vanessa, again, I'm sorry I talk a lot, but I hope that you found this very meaningful too, like in all of the 2 sessions that you were able to deliver with us.
I'm just so appreciative, and I appreciate all of you. And this is just amazing that you've created this platform for everyone in your community to come together. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I don't think I've ever seen a learning community so large to learn. So what you've created, John, and is just amazing. So well done, everyone for coming along and everyone that's put this together. And Kina, I know that you're not on the webcam at the moment, but thank you for hosting today. It's just been such a pleasure. And like John said, we're all climbing the mountain together, and you know, I always say if you have those Michael Jordan moments, that's absolutely okay. Just know
Yeah.
there's others that, you know, when you're having that Michael Jordan moment, just know there's others having that too. And we're all here to help. So connect on LinkedIn and ask the question and find people to help you along the way.
Thank you so much. I mean, you're making me cry with that message, Vanessa, as short as it is.
Very heartwarming.
Yes, it is. It is. And it means a lot, like especially coming from someone who's already had a lot of expertise doing all of these things. So yeah, everyone, please be a member of PSCD. That's one of my last thoughts. If you want us to continue giving the free access to people just like you who are now starting to get so many takeaways from these learning initiatives, be a member and help us raise some funds. You will see that it will all be worth it because as a community, we will grow together. And once we start to improve as a group, you will be amazed at how big changes we can do moving forward, not just for the community, but also for the country.